Okay, here we are on my first playthrough of the DLC. I decided to start the DLC with my intelligence-based character because in my opinion intelligence is just the easiest way to play this game. And you'll see in this video, bosses don't stand a chance, regular enemies don't stand a chance. There's so many good options to use in an intelligence build. The first thing you're seeing right now is me just kind of running through the environment at the Shadow Keep. The setup that I have is I'm using the Great Katana in my right hand with CARIAN Sovereignty being the Ash of War. And it's in a magic affinity, so I don't get a lot of physical damage, but my intelligence stat is 80, so I'm getting a ton of magic damage. And there's not a ton of resistance to magic damage, so it's pretty useful kind of all around. There's that Ash of War CARIAN Sovereignty. I use it against these stronger guys. These are called Fire Knights or something. And then in my left hand, I have my casting option. I have the staff called the CARIAN Glintstone Scepter. It improves the power of spell blades, basically. So Adula's Moonblade I'm using right there. It has a large swipe like that. I'm also using CARIAN SLICER, and you'll see later in the video I really heavily rely on CARIAN SLICER. I think it's probably the best spell in the game. It's absurd, you'll see why. So this was how I was just journeying around for most of the DLC, because this is a pretty versatile but very simple build. The Great Katana is just my sort of go-to. I just R1 and can one-shot most smaller enemies, and for bigger enemies I can use that CARIAN Sovereignty skill. I have Adula's Moonblade for a wider swipe if there's a couple enemies attacking me at once. And then if I get in close or fighting a fast enemy that the Great Katana isn't well set up for, then I have CARIAN SLICER to just slice them up. The DPS on CARIAN SLICER is just absolutely insane. There it is, because it casts really quickly. Those were two separate casts, but if you just keep pressing L1, it just swipes, and does so much damage. So this is a really solid setup. I actually don't have any ranged options, which is kind of unusual. If I sometimes, going through certain places, I would also carry the Staff of Loss. I have a plus 25 Staff of Loss as well. These are all, by the way, max upgrades. And I would just cast Night Comet for something that's further away. It is nice to have a ranged option, but in the Shadow Keep, this location I'm in right now, you don't really need it. So showing my versatility, he blocked CARIAN Sovereignty, so I just cast it again. Yeah, so this is a fun setup. It's not by any means the only setup to go through the DLC, but I did want to use a DLC weapon, and this Great Katana is a new DLC weapon that I really liked. Oh, and it looks like I was running around with the wrong, not wrong, but just I changed up my talismans. I ended up using the Shard of Alexander to increase the damage of CARIAN Sovereignty, and the CARIAN Filigreed Crest to decrease the FP cost. What I had in there was boosting sorceries, which works for Adula's Moonblade and CARIAN SLICER, but not so much for CARIAN Sovereignty, and I was relying more on that, I found. So I switched up those talismans. So that was my setup running through a lot of the DLC. Here I have the Death Ritual Spear and the Great Katana with CARIAN Sovereignty, and you can see the rest of my setup here. I'm really sad. I actually lost this boss fight. I didn't save the video for some reason. I don't know what happened to it. But it was the Golden Hippo. You'll see in my second DLC playthrough a video fighting the Golden Hippo, but it was so easy on this build. I think I just stumbled onto him, and so I found a smaller hippo to do the same kind of build against. I probably shouldn't have even buffed so the fight could last a little longer, but you'll see the approach here. The Death Ritual Spear, the Ash of War Spear Call Ritual, you'll see is really good for hitting large targets that aren't crazy fast moving, and it also somehow does a lot of stance damage. And so you'll see right here, just imagine this guy 3 times the size, and this is what happened to the Golden Hippo. I did 3 casts of Spear Call Ritual, which made him stance break. I switched over to the Great Katana, and I did CARIAN Sovereignty and this fully charged, and it was so cool against the Golden Hippo, because that right there killed him, and it felt like so sick. That's like classic Spellblade shit. So anyway, here I am fighting Commander Gaius, and this was maybe only my second time fighting him. And I ended up, this is where I kind of rediscovered the power of CARIAN SLICER, because you'll see, I like am not doing well in this fight. I did not know his moveset at all at this point. He is like completely bullying me, but I still end up pulling out the W pretty easily. And this will really showcase how good CARIAN SLICER really is, and that is completely owing to how fast you can cast it. And so what I was doing was, with my talismans, I would buff my casting speed with the Radagon icon, or later I would use an upgraded talisman, an upgraded version of that. Like, look at that, it casts so fast and does so much damage. So what I really love about this, and the reason it worked so well for the DLC, is I didn't really know any of the boss moves. Obviously, it's my first time going through it, and so it's kind of hard to find like large punish windows or the right time to attack. And so, you know, basically how this game works is you make as few mistakes as you can and attack them as many times as possible, and the more mistakes you make, the fewer attacks you get before you die. And the cool thing about CARIAN SLICER is you get so many more attacks that you really only need to get a couple of openings. So it's not a great way to like learn all the boss's movesets. There are way better ways to do that, but it is a good way to finish the game. And I just wanted to beat the DLC once to sort of get to see all the items and all the bosses. And with CARIAN SLICER, I could get completely beat up like I did against Gaius here, and then see I get one opening and I'm doing 10,000 damage, 12,000, 14, 16,000 damage, because I had a couple seconds to attack him. So I don't really need to be great. And then I dodged this and found out that he has a large punish window there, and I killed him. That's like how insane CARIAN SLICER is. This was maybe like a 2-minute long fight, and I did like 80% of the damage in the last 15 seconds. So I ended up, I hope this isn't too boring, but I ended up using CARIAN SLICER for most of the DLC. So that's what you're gonna see for basically the rest of this video. Here I am fighting Mesmer, who I think is a really fun boss. He, similar to a lot of bosses in the DLC, does not have huge punish windows. I do think he's a very fair boss and has really good punish window. Like, you can, his moves are decently well telegraphed and they're cool, and you can always punish him if you dodge his stuff in the right way. And with CARIAN SLICER, I was able to just absolutely melt him. 8,500 damage on his, in the first seconds of the fight. An interesting dodge here. This ends up being the Ash of War on his spear, so you can use that skill. And look at that, I didn't even have a good punish window, and I still knocked out 4,000 HP. It's just, CARIAN SLICER just makes this game so easy, which I love, because I'm not very good. I'm kind of surprised he didn't phase transition here. I clearly needed to get one more cast. But anyway, so the build I'm using, and what I use for most of the game, is I have Lusat's staff in my right hand, which is the best, has the highest sort of sorcery damage of any staff in the game. In my left hand, I have the CARIAN Glintstone staff, which boosts sword sorceries by, 20% or whatever. So CARIAN SLICER does a lot of damage with that equipped, even if it's not the one I'm casting it with. So I'm casting it with the high sorcery scaling staff, and then I'm getting the buff from the other staff in my offhand. And you'll see, I'm like not very good. Like, I'm getting clobbered by Mesmer. He's hitting me with almost everything, but I get like one instant and I'm taking off thousands of health. I actually did a pretty good job there. I dodged a lot of that, but I didn't know what these moves were. I was just fucking casting CARIAN SLICER and dodging what looked like his attacks were, and I beat him pretty easily. I don't think this took me too many tries. I am running out of FP, but CARIAN SLICER is so cheap too that I knew I could kill him with one or two more casts, and there it is. That was Mesmer using CARIAN SLICER. A top tier strategy to beat the DLC. Might be the way you want to do it, or you might want to do it another way. If you're using an int build, Night Combat is great. There's a ton of other sorceries that are good. I fight a guy, I might not fight him in this video. I didn't start recording videos of my DLC playthrough until I had already beat a couple bosses. I didn't think about making a video like this until kind of late in the game. So, but there's a guy in the south of the map that drops a really good sorcery called Vortex of Putrescence that I'll use in subsequent playthroughs, but here I really just wanted to get through the game. I mean, look at that. 2 slices, the tiniest little punish window, and it's 3,500 damage. That's decent. So this boss kind of sucks, actually. The Mother of Fingers. She's hard and does a lot of damage to me. And I'm just not very good at dodging her attacks, and I didn't do so great on her with Feanor either, my second playthrough. But, with CARIAN SLICER, nothing is really that difficult. You get the tiniest little opening, and you can do so much damage so quickly. So I don't think I have a whole lot to say about her other than she kind of sucks. She reminds me of, like, Estelle from the base game meets, like, the Golden Hippo from the DLC. Like, this kind of crap is like, what is going on? The fingers on the side, it's not safe to hug her side. Look at that absolute insanity. Like, phase transitions are just butter for CARIAN SLICER because they just stand there and do shit for a long time, and you can just get tens of thousands of damage in no time. There it is, like, easy. So I don't have like a good strategy against Mother of Fingers. I just CARIAN sliced her up. Now, who am I fighting here? Oh, this is Midra. I really like Midra. I think Midra's a good boss. And again, with CARIAN SLICER, pretty easy. Just kidding, that's not the boss. That's like the weird phase 1 thing. So Midra has a really cool moveset, pretty cool lore, really like flowy moves that if you just do it for a little while, if you just watch him for a little while, you'll understand how to dodge like 90% of his moves. He doesn't have like that many combos. So this wasn't like a quick one. This was kind of actually among the builds that's kind of harder for CARIAN SLICER to beat because he's not big, he's humanoid, so you have to get right in close, like right in his attack window to be able to CARIAN slice him. So I actually got to know his moves pretty well. Already in phase 2, I think I've used 1 healing flask. Maybe not even, that might have been my first healing flask. So top up, I have to close the distance and dodge his attacks. But then once I get a window, I can cast 2 or 3 CARIAN SLICERs or get greedy like that and cast 1 and just trade damage. And he starts melting away. There wasn't really any reason for me to fight him on this character because he has an incantation and a strength faith weapon for his remembrance, so like I'm not going to get anything out of it. But I think he's just a really cool fight, and he looks cool, and his moveset's really fun. I like the way he's like flowy and dancey, and just non-stop, very aggressive CARIAN slicing. There's definitely a less bullshit way to get through this DLC as an int character, but I didn't really feel like finding out what it was. I just wanted to slice everybody up. There's that Ash of War on the weapon that I used a lot, not a lot, but that I like quite a bit on my Strength Faith character. I get his weapon and use it. This is a fun attack. You can just duck under it and then get a big punish window. So I think I might have killed him here. Yeah. Ease. First try. Just kidding. I don't think much is going to change in the next couple fights. I only have a couple left. Oh, I guess I decided to show you my build here. Lusat's Staff, the CARIAN Glintstone, and then this is the improved Radagon's Icon. It increases your casting speed like to as high as it can be, but you do take extra damage, but not a huge deal because I use the Opaline Hard tier to boost the damage negation. Okay, so here is a different exploration build. I was using Ice Spear in one hand, and then of course CARIAN SLICER in the left hand because that is just the best. So here I was just casting the Ash against this Tree Sentinel who for some reason is in the Lands of Shadow. Ice Spear is a great Ash of War that's got range, so actually it's, if you don't want to use Night Comet, it can be your ranged option is just your weapon Ash of War. I have it on the Guardian Sword Spear in Cold Affinity. Got blocked by some weird obelisk there. That was dumb. So it can apply cold or frostbite to an enemy, which is great because it does a lot of damage and then also debuffs them. So all the rest of your attacks do more damage once they've been frostbitten. But it looks like, I don't know if this guy was immune or what, but it looks like it was taking too long to build up the frostbite, so I just switched over to the Lusat staff and CARIAN sliced him to death. Great for being impatient, having a spell that casts super fast and does a ton of damage. So that was another exploration option other than the Great Katana. And here's yet a third one. There was a second Tree Sentinel down the road, so I decided to try out another build on him, and I went with the Moonveil Katana. I just love the Ash of War. It's a stance, and then you can do the R2 attack to do this like overhead swipe. You can also do the R1 attack, but I pretty much always do the R2. I just like the way it looks more. And sometimes you forget to get into the stance and you just do a thrust R2, which is pointless. So not quite as much damage, not quite as fast as Ice Spear or of course CARIAN Slicer, but you know, who wants to play on easy mode all the time? Decent damage, I mean 2,000 is decent. And another thrust, which did about 1,000 damage that I accidentally did. Honestly, the cool thing about Moonveil is that it does a lot of stance damage, but this guy must have like unlimited stance because I've landed like 9 heavies on him, 10, and he is not stance broken. So I think pretty soon, I was like, fuck it, like he's not even gonna stance break before I kill him, so I'm just gonna CARIAN slice him. So really fun to, a cool thing about sorcery builds too is that staffs are really low weight, so you can just be holding a bunch of them and still be a medium load. So that's really awesome. Here is an NPC fight. I hate this fight, but it was really, really easy with CARIAN Slicer. A cool thing about the NPCs in this fight, or at least the first one or two, is that they have really low poise, and CARIAN Slicer does like very low poise damage, but for guys like this that like just aren't wearing armor, CARIAN Slicer is enough to, you'll see in a second. You'll see it on the second guy. I can basically get them locked in a CARIAN Slicer hell. So this second guy is really easy, and you'll see me just slice him to death in a second. And he can't get out of it because he has low poise, so just boom, 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 dead. 16,000 damage. This person is wearing armor, so it's not going to be the same deal. But my summon showed up, so it'll be 2 against 1, and it'll be easy. Still so fast, and it does decent poise damage. I mean, it does low poise damage. Don't think of it as like a poise damage machine, but against NPCs it's decent. It can lock them up like that, and me and my summon just beating her up. Easy. And so I know what's next because this is the last fight before the final boss of the DLC, which is an insane fight. And the reason it's so insane is because the punish windows are so small, and each of his hits that land on you does so much damage. And so what's really perfect about CARIAN Slicer in this fight is you don't need to do it right so many times. You can make you only need a couple openings really. Like I think I maybe had like overall like 10 openings in this entire fight, but CARIAN Slicer is so fast and does so much damage that that's enough. Because really what this fight is about is just managing mistakes or managing bad luck, because he has some moves that are just like impossible to dodge. That wasn't one of them, but I decided to get hit by it just to give him a chance. So this was my first time fighting him, not my first attempt at him. This is my first time fighting this boss, and it took me maybe 2 hours. And then the next time that I fought him on my other character, who's a more straight ahead melee character, did a little bit less damage, took like 7 hours over 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So he starts off phase 2 with this AoE, I heal up, get ready to go. Had about the worst start to phase 2 as you could, getting just hit by everything. Fucking moron over here. And then, little punish window, let's knock off a couple thousand damage. Get it, every punish window, it's a couple thousand damage, and I really don't need that many punish windows. God, I like barely knew this guy's moveset when I beat him, which is crazy, because now I know his moveset so well, because the second time I fought him, I had to fight him so many times, so like I'm getting hit by stuff that is like, what am I doing there? I didn't even know how to dodge half of this shit. But this is his easiest attack to dodge, and always leaves you a decent punish window, so I'm getting a couple thousand out of the way every time he does one of those. I got pretty lucky because I was greedy there and did a couple extra slashes, but he did that move that leaves him open for a little bit, so I survived it, which I really shouldn't have. If he had done almost any other move, my greediness there would have got me in trouble, but I got a little lucky. And yeah, you know, I have to get a little lucky to beat this guy because I'm just not good enough to dodge all of his stuff. Like that is like an undodgeable move and does a ton of damage. It's really annoying. So here he's going to do his meteor. If I had known that, I think this is the first time I got to his meteor, I would have just kept attacking right there. I could have gotten another 2 or 3 swipes in. And then I really only need 1 or 2 more opportunities here because CARIAN SLICER is so fast and strong. Jesus, I barely got it because I was bad at dodging his stuff. I bet this is it. This is the easiest one to dodge, and I bet I just swipe away here, slice away. Nope, I'm gonna take 1 more, but luckily I got really lucky. I should have healed there, but I got lucky because he did an easily dodged attack with a big opening, so I beat him. And that's, you know, that's what it takes, is a lot of damage and a little bit of luck. And that was my first DLC playthrough.